Good afternoon and welcome to the City Council of May 5th, 2025. I ask that you rise for the singing of our national anthem.
Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With flowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free, from far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you to our very own Tennille Towns for the singing of our national anthem and to our marketing department for the images of our city. I would now like to take this opportunity to read our land acknowledgement. The city respectfully acknowledges the Beaver Cree, Dene, and Métis people as the original caretakers of these lands and surrounding areas. We are grateful to live, learn, work, and play on Treaty 8 territory within Turtle Island and acknowledge that these lands have been home to diverse and sovereign First Nations and Inuit nations since time immemorial. Moving on to proclamations for today. I have one proclamation. However, I would say that it's a busy day of proclamations. Earlier today, Councillor Bressie read the proclamation for Mental Health Awareness Week. Later this afternoon, we will read the awareness proclamation for murdered and missing Indigenous relatives, which also known as Red Dress Day. And right now, I'll take the opportunity to read the proclamation for Youth Week. So Youth Week from May 1st to 7th, 2025. Whereas Youth Week is a time to recognize and celebrate the contributions, achievements, and potential of our young children in our community. And whereas Youth Week encourages collaboration between youth, community organizations, educators, businesses, and all residents to build a strong and supportive environment for young children. And whereas to conclude Youth Week, the City of Grande Prairie is proud to host, in collaboration with the Government of Alberta, the County of Grande Prairie, and the MD of Greenview, as well as many other community partners, the Youth Career Discovery Expo on May 8th at the Bonnet Energy Centre. And whereas this event brings together employers, educators, and community organizations to help youth ages 14 to 30 explore pathways to employment, training, education, and career development. It provides valuable experiences for youth to connect with the community and gain tools and confidence needed for success, encouraging them to discover the possibilities available in our vibrant region. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Jackie Clayton of the City of Grande Prairie, do hereby proclaim May 1st to May 7th as Youth Week in the City of Grande Prairie. So thank you for that opportunity. I'll now move on to item number 5 of today's agenda, recognizing Councillor O'Connor for the adoption of the previous minutes.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I'd like to move council adopt the minutes of the City Council meeting held April 21st as presented.
Thanks by Councillor O'Connor. That motion is in order. Seeing no one in the queue, I'll call the question. Please vote. And that carries unanimously. I did fail to mention, and I apologize. Joining us online today, for those of you who are watching, we have Councillor Thiessen, Councillor Blackmore, and Councillor O'Toole. In the chambers, Councillor O'Connor, Bressie, Palat, and myself. Moving on to item number 6, the adoption of today's agenda. Recognizing Councillor Bressie.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I would move the council adopt the agenda with the removal of item 7.2.
Thank you for that. That motion is in order. We had one delegation let us know that they would reschedule to come to see council, so that change has been made. So I'll call the question. Please vote. And that carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 7, under delegations. So delegations, we have 2 opportunities when we have, like today, when we have a public hearing. There's always a 3 o'clock opportunity for delegation, and sometimes there's an evening session. And when there is, there's an opportunity to come speak to council at 6 p.m. If you would like to speak to council, it's a really easy form. You go online, fill it out, let us know what you'd like to come speak to council about, give us a heads up. Today, we have Mr. Sam Osman joining us. Please come forward, gentlemen. Once you're situated, your mics are on if you want to introduce yourselves. Those microphones aren't attached to the table, so move them closer to you if you require. And I think you have a colleague online, Mr. Brandon Park, maybe joining you as well. But I'll turn it over to you. Take about 5 minutes, address council. Then council may have questions for you. We deal with delegation business at the end of this afternoon session, but I'll turn it over to you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Clayton and councillors. I have some drawings here. Can I get this?
Yeah, if you put them on that X,
Okay.
they will be, there you go. Yep.
My name is Sam Osman. I'm the CEO of Trader Properties. Thank you, councillors and Mayor Clayton. 13 years ago, we made the decision to invest in Grande Prairie. We developed 160 acres of land, known as the Trader Ridge Development. We have brought 60 to 70 million worth of taxable projects on that site to the city. Over those years, we've paid 16 million in property taxes, off-site levies, municipal reserves. Since then, we've had a very difficult time in making the project viable, having a very slowed down economy due to various reasons. We went through COVID, historic interest rate increases. Now we're going through the tariffs, an anti-energy liberal government, and it's been the hopes of making profitability have diminished over those years, having gone through those events. That being said, we have, in the month of June, 10 months ago, we decided to build up to 1,000 apartments in Grande Prairie through the CMHC program. It's called the MLI Select. The MLI Select there are some conditions to being approved to that. The program is financed up to 95% if you qualify. To qualify, to get the maximum financing for this project, we have to rent 25% roughly of the project to affordability, people that cannot afford market rent. The affordability project is roughly 30% below prevailing market in the city of Grande Prairie. We also have to hold on to that project for 10 years as a minimum, and the project must be personally guaranteed. During that time, when we started this project in June, we had metrics, we had done all the math, and made sense at the time. Since then, the goalpost has moved many times. It's no longer viable for a few reasons. CMHC keeps changing the program, and as of recent, in the last 2 months or so, we've been facing the challenges of tariffs. When we priced the project, we have so far spent $1 million in engineering and soft costs. We sent preliminary budgets to all the contractors in the city. We got those numbers in. This was pre-COVID. Since then, we have finalized the drawings, issued for construction drawings, and we went back to the same contractors to get pricing.
It's pre-tax.
There has been a significant increase in the cost of construction, and at this point, the project is not viable. If we do not get We hope that you'd be our partner, and I appreciate all the help that you've offered to date. It's not gone unnoticed, but to date, it does not make sense. Jeff McCammon will be speaking to. He's with Cushman Wakefield, and you can have your 5-minute say. He knows the market very well in commercial, residential, etc. They do a lot of business in the city of Grande Prairie. As well, we have Brandon Park. Brandon works with Canada ICI. Canada ICI is the leader in procuring the insurance certificate for CMHC. So that being said, I'll hand it off to Jeff.
Honorable Mayor, Council.
Just pull that a little closer to you.
Closer?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, Council, and City Administration. Appreciate the opportunity for us to have this conversation today. First and foremost, would like to express from our professional opinion how nice it is to work with a community that will offer some assistance. The programs that are available to us did allow us to bring in some other recent activity into your market. In addition, I don't think that Sam would have been as encouraged to move forward had there not been some assistance from City Council and administration. That being said, Grande Prairie has been a little bit of a tough market. If we go back historically on land sales, which is just the entry point to these developments. In fact, that's just the ticket to get in. The real money comes once you've got the land. In Sam's case, he's got a lot of land that didn't sell, and he's had a lot of expenses on those. And I know that the city has done their part to try and assist with moving things forward. The process so far in rezoning the site so that we could go from more of a commercial site to residential was very much appreciated. I think when Sam was speaking, he had mentioned that he mistakenly said the pandemic when he priced this, but it was actually in November, and it was pre-tariff.
So that's correct.
Yeah, so I guess what I'd like to really underscore here is that the help is appreciated. A little bit more help given the severity of the situation to encourage Sam to move forward. He's got extensive personal guarantees that go against this project. And as everybody's well aware, I don't think that the rents in Grande Prairie, although your vacancy rate's very low, I don't think your rents have caught up to the point where construction will actually allow these projects to move forward. That's further compounded by the fact that CMHC dictates what the rates need to be in these properties. In addition to that, a number of the suites are discounted from those rates to hit this particular program. Any assistance that could be done from the municipality with CMHC as well. I don't know if you have your own rental surveys or if there's something we can do there as well, would be greatly appreciated. This is a project that's going to bring tons of people into the community to give them housing, to fill jobs that are available. And I think not only will it be good for the economy, it'll reflect well on the community of the city of Grande Prairie. And just to remind everybody, I know everybody knows this, but the developers like Sam are builders of your community, and they're not complaining about not getting enough assistance. They're here just to see if we can tip things a little bit further in order to proceed. So it's something, a very, very large commitment to your community. And just looking for just a little bit more assistance if possible. Understanding that the province has allowed this program to be opened up to a potential 15-year situation. Hopefully the municipality can be reasonable and we can expect some further cooperation to hopefully encourage Sam to move forward with his project and his guarantees. And I think Brandon has some insight into the market from a lending perspective. Also, in previous discussions, it should be noted that these expenses, such as property taxes, are a line item on a balance sheet. They're not something that can be passed along to a tenant, as in the case of a triple net lease in a shopping center. So on multi-residential, it's a line item on an expense sheet. And can we call on Brandon to speak?
Sure. Mr. Park, if you want to take a couple minutes as we're getting over in our presentation time,
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, Honorable Mayor and Council, as well as administration, thank you for the opportunity to share the perspective we see. I'm located in Edmonton, Alberta, and spent a lot of time in Grande Prairie, but also have the benefit of being Canada ICI being a national CMHC-approved lender and also offering a few points on that national perspective. With respect to Canada ICI's role in the market, we are the leading originator of CMHC loans in Canada, as well as securing COIs, and that's a national perspective. When we talk about CMHC, the release of the program 3 years ago that Sam is utilizing, that we successfully secured a certificate of insurance on, has matured. So CMHC in itself has evolved in how they are approving those COIs. So we have a unique opportunity in time to provide Sam with good financing metrics, though we, because of political and geopolitical and economic, continue to see a lot of volatility and interest rate risk in the market. I think what the key features of his property, which he had touched on, is an affordability component. To make it kind of help everyone understand the affordability component, Sam is committing 25% of the units for a 10-year period that adheres to CMHC's definition of affordability, which is based off of median renter income in specific jurisdictions. And furthermore, it's a form of almost rent control that limits annual increases on those units to the CPI index. So it's an interesting mechanism to provide sustainable housing in your community, new housing to enhance the inventory. And furthermore, when it relates to the COI, it's quite an extensive process to secure the certificate of insurance. But CMHC sets the boundaries on that. And one of the challenges that Sam faces amidst final approvals, as well as budgeting in the context of the tariff environment, is that he's required to take that first draw upon 6 months of issuance. So we've already been working through that for the last 3 months, but continue. So we have, approximately 3 months left to initiate that. We earlier today, kind of zooming out to a national perspective, across the country, we're seeing headwinds on the development industry. Approvals are more challenging with lenders. Costs are increasing, and I don't think this is indicative of Grande Prairie and the municipality, but other jurisdictions. There's a long procurement period for permits as well as approvals. I think when we take a look at the opportunity here to add the units, it's important to recognize that the financial market looks at from a very Toronto-centric, Eastern-centric perspective, where there's some challenges in Ontario. I don't think those are the same challenges necessarily in other jurisdictions, but we have experienced some challenges in finalizing with Canada ICI the commitment for the loan. We have an alternative backup, but it's important to, I think, to just recognize on a national context that we are facing headwinds as a country, and there are still communities that require new product. But it's important that the risk that the developer is taking on, which is significant, and it's for the lifetime of the project, as long as it's held by them, which is a minimum of 10 years, are offset by the opportunity in order to proceed. Development is the riskiest aspect of the development spectrum and real estate spectrum, and we hope that that can be a solution that helps move this project forward. Because again, being a strong proponent of Grande Prairie, I think Sam and his team has put together a top-notch product compared to what we see across the spectrum in the country. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for your presentation. I have a few councillors in the queue with questions, starting with Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I have two questions, if you'll allow me to ask them both.
Yeah, you bet.
The first is for Mr. Osman. We really do understand the pressures that you're under, and we also understand the benefit that your building would bring to Grande Prairie. We recognize that it's really valuable to have a place for workers to come and live. And right now, that's a shortage. But I'm wondering if you can give me an idea. If we were to go ahead and meet your request, or even meet your request partway, is that actually going to be enough to push your project over the line? When I'm looking at it right now, I'm thinking that there's a good possibility that no matter what we do, it's not going to be effective. So can you give me like a percentage? What percentage of chance do you think you have to push this forward if we meet your requests?
That's a good question. To date, we're the furthest ahead.
Mind just lifting your mic a bit closer to you? Thank you. Perfect. Thank you.
To answer your question, to date, we're the furthest ahead, I think, of any developer in Grande Prairie. We're at the point where we've spent $1 million on hard and soft costs. Not hard costs, but soft costs. We have the insurance certificate. We do have a bank approval, an alternative bank approval. We have the contractor in place. We have our pricing. So it's just a matter of making the math work. If the math works, we will proceed. Now, that's assuming that the goalpost doesn't get moved again. Because as you know, if there's some catastrophic third-party event, well, we won't be proceeding. But if we get the assistance that we need and the math makes sense, we will proceed.
Can I just add to that?
Okay.
Like, just another part of that answer would be that, picture this like a big truck idling on the side of the road, just waiting to enter traffic. I think once the decision's made to proceed and everything is executed and the contracts are in place, that truck is on the highway. That this project is proceeding. So it's a matter of if and when, once the decision's made to move forward. It's not coming back.
Just to touch a little bit more on that, when we did the metrics, and Brandon didn't touch on that, the cap rate was roughly 5.5%. In repricing from the issued for construction drawings, across the board, we're seeing 15% increases. This is becoming increasingly difficult day by day. And we don't know, we can't predict what's going to happen with geopolitics, what's on the horizon. We can't see that. But based on today, if when we look at the numbers add up, we move forward.
Councillor Blackmore, you had another question?
Yeah, my second question is, I'll share this concern that I have. There's in the letter that you wrote, Council, you mentioned that it's that we wouldn't be losing anything because without the building being built, we wouldn't be able to earn those taxes. With the building being built, we could push those taxes back. But the one concern I have, and I don't know if you have considered this, is if you bring 1,000 new residents into Grande Prairie to fill your apartments, then we're providing services to them. And services cost money, which is why we have taxes in the first place. And so I'm wondering if you have thought through that process of how if we were delaying your taxes, then we're not collecting taxes to provide services to those people that you would be filling and you're putting in your building.
I have thought that through that very well. Currently, I pay you $1.2 million. That's not including the Trader Ridge Mall. For 160 acres, that's a considerable amount of money. I see it, and with all due respect to council and the mayor, you have everything to gain. I have everything to lose. My comment was not out of line.
Just to add to that, for every job that gets created, there's other service jobs that get created. When those service jobs get created, it brings new businesses into your community. Those new businesses take space in existing vacancies, and they also encourage new buildings to be built to accommodate those businesses. And there's a definite tax gain on those properties in particular. So I don't see it as as where there isn't a win for the city here all the way around to get more revenue by having 1,000 people move in that require services from the private sector as well that will expand into your markets.
Okay, thank you for that.
Mr. Park, you had something to add?
Yeah, just one comment to kind of supplement what Mr. Osman shared there. I can validate the comment related to the cap rate in that we are seeing that cap rate decrease because of the increasing costs. I think it's important to remember we are in a development cycle, and that's because there's been some favorable factors, what being with municipalities, in-migration and job growth, as well as the financing through CMHC. The sustainability of those, typically what we see in a development cycle, metrics change, economics change, but there's an opportunity to add a large-scale building that would greatly enhance the value that would be added to the tax base over time for the municipality. Because when the development cycle ends, the viability of projects just become more challenging. So there is a window until the next cycle comes along.
Just remember, too, this is a time where in your market, there are several opportunities out there that are foreclosed properties and properties that couldn't make it in the current market. There's a number of deals that are out there today. In fact, one across the street from this property.
Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Thanks for coming in. Just curious, I'm not sure if this would be for Mr. Osman or Mr. Park. When you're looking at these terms and rates, what's a normal rate now, and what's a normal term for these kind of projects? I hear different things from different things and from different proponents. I'm just wondering if it's an advocacy piece for us outside of this with CMHC to be trying to work on that more. But what sort of a term and interest rate are you guys looking at a project?
That's a good question. The term is, I believe, 50 years. And if I'm saying, if my numbers aren't right, Brandon, please correct me, but it's a 50-year amortization. The construction loan, there's two different loan structures. The construction loan for a period of 2 years for the first phase would be roughly 4.8%. And once the project gets stabilized, and we don't know how long that will take, we're optimistic that it'll be done within the first 2 years. Stabilization means you hit 95% occupancy. And at that point in time, I think it would probably drop down to about 3.8 to 4%.
Okay. And just kind of building off Councillor Blackmore's question. I mean, I know a cap rate, as you said, how the math has to work. I'm just, what's the cap rate that it kind of needs to be for this to be like, okay, we're moving ahead with a project like this?
I think as long as we have stabilization, we're good with that. But if it drops any further, then of course it doesn't make sense. And we have to look at alternative sources to try to, for example, get our construction material. At this point, with the current pricing in the local area, it doesn't work. So I've been traveling overseas quite a bit to source doors and windows, and hopefully at a more than a 15% discount to try to make up the difference.
Okay, I did have a couple more, but I'll pop out.
Okay. Councillor Bressie.
Great. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming in and speaking to us. I know that you're asking us for us to directly do something. I don't mean to deflect from that at all, but I do want to ask about something I'm just not as knowledgeable about. And you were talking about CMHC and decisions that are made for the east of the province, which I totally agree with. I know there has been conversation around this table, but also through our municipal association province-wide about getting stronger to CMHC for, hey, figure out the Alberta context and figure out the non-Calgary Edmonton context. I'm curious, what would be your advice for advocating for? What would be one or two concrete CMHC changes that you'd love to see us advocating for when we are at those tables?
That's a great question. The first one I would say is that when the CMHC approved the project, they're using existing metrics based on what they think your rental model is. Their numbers are below reality. So, for example, if a 2-bedroom is leasing for $1,800, their metrics are it's $1,400, and they set it in stone. There's a good question that you had also, Mayor Clayton, when we had our call on Monday. One of your questions was, you mean you don't get to pass along the taxes? Of course not. The numbers are set. Again, as Jeff mentioned, the taxes are a line item on a budget, an operating budget.
So you're saying they're only considering your revenue side. They don't look at your expense side changes, and that doesn't impact what they're willing to do or what they're willing to do at all, if I'm understanding right.
That would be a good question for Brandon Park. I know that on the revenue side, that's what they look at. I can't comment on the expense side. Brandon spent a considerable amount of time getting the numbers to work. So maybe, Brandon, if you can answer that.
Yeah, and Brendan, along with that, maybe you can explain, the 10-year average, how CMHC sets that rate, and to Sam's point, that, the reality of what we're currently seeing in the market and how that lagging number isn't really reflective. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll touch on those two questions. So CMHC has a very prescriptive method in underwriting an application, which we mirror. To Sam's earlier point, is they look at the rental universe in the municipality using their own data set. And they don't distinguish between newer builds, which have the amenities, have the qualities, the square footage and locations that tenants desire, that are close to the kind of, I'm going to call them the institutions of a municipality. They take 40-year-old buildings, 60-year-old buildings, and treat those on a level playing field, and obviously those have a different user experience. So when they look at the underwriting, they attribute expenses on new construction on a very prescriptive basis, whereby they use all operating expenses are based off of Alberta standards for new construction, and that's the initial for year one. Where estimates are used, which we have to support with quotes, or are for property taxes, insurance, and utilities. And we have to validate those through direct sources, either available through websites or quotes from industry. So again, we work on the science, but we often see CMHC having their benchmarks, but lenders taking a look at the inflation that's taking place on expenses. And that obviously in a gross lease scenario, like a rental apartments, eats into the viability of a project. With respect to the affordability component, Honorable Mayor, CMHC takes a look at each. They have different data sets for each of their identified municipalities. Grande Prairie is not an identified municipality or zone nationally by CMHC. In Alberta, it is Edmonton, Calgary, Red Deer, Medicine Hat, and Wood Buffalo. So in taking a look at the median renter income pool, they actually use Alberta average minus the CMAs. So Edmonton and Calgary, more or less. Affordability. Now, what's affordability? It is based off of 30% of the median renter income, according to CMHC's data, which is drawn from Stats Canada, and then you divide that by 12, and that would be your definition of the maximum permissible affordable rent in year one. So I think when we take a look at the nuances in municipality, not having Grande Prairie included as a specific municipality of the, call it 50 or so across Canada, would be something you may want to advocate for.
Perfect. Appreciate that.
To those
I have
terms.
one question for Brandon. 2 hours ago, you sent me a text. CMH Canada ICI procured the insurance certificate from CMHC. That certificate gets held in your office, and that gives you first opportunity to procure financing with the banks. Could you touch on what happened this afternoon with that approval?
Yeah, absolutely. As Sam knows, I've been working in parallel with Sam with our capital sources through Canada ICI, Eastern-based. Appreciate that Grande Prairie is a western province. It's a secondary or tertiary market when you look at the context of the country. With our capital source, there was a little bit of an uneasy nature by supporting a loan in a secondary market surrounded by the oil and gas industry, or one of the legs of the economy, using an analogy of a stool. Extremely disappointing. But again, keeping in mind that a lot of these decisions, whether it's CMHC or in the financial markets, are headquartered or centered out of Ottawa and Toronto, it's just important to be well aware of kind of some of the headwinds faced by Alberta and municipalities in Alberta.
What was the number one reason for decline?
Geographic and exposure. Not necessarily to Grande Prairie in terms of exposure, but to Alberta. But
specific to this,
geographic was the most. Yeah, it was in geographic was the major.
Okay, so that applied to the city of Grande Prairie.
Yeah.
But not just identifying Grande Prairie, it was for Alberta.
As pertaining to our...
No, but it was, but from a geographic, it was particularly Grande Prairie being a smaller market in the eyes of a Toronto Schedule 1 bank.
For sure. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Thank you, Mr. Osman, Mr. McCammon, and Mr. Park. My question comes around on the, I heard that you are looking elsewhere to avoid any of the tariff challenges. Has your estimating included just trying to buy Canadian?
A lot of the times, on big product, you can't buy Canadian. It's impossible to make the math work.
Okay, so you're talking like appliances or fixtures or those kinds of things?
Not so much that. It's more like doors and windows. For example, part of the approval is you have to have. There's three things. You have to have affordability. You have to have accessibility. And then you have to have an energy model. Part of that energy model means that you have to save 30% in efficiency, 30% in energy efficiency. So when you try to get a triple pane window in Canada, it'd be double the price where you can get it overseas. So we of course we want to support local, but when the math doesn't make sense, the project doesn't get off the ground.
Yeah. So my next question, you can tell me to take a hike left somewhere, but I'm going to ask it anyways, being a former contractor. Is there a chance that, and you have a beautiful looking building.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering if there isn't an opportunity to find savings in finding alternative construction design so that you can save on your overall budget. Taken into consideration, we're in a market where rents have not come up in comparison to Edmonton and Calgary and Toronto, wherever. So I'm just wondering, has that been a consideration as well?
That's been a huge consideration. This project is not what we call a stick-built product. It's not wood. The alternative to that is it's a energy efficient green model, where the entirety of the project would be what's called cold form steel. So we've made a deal with a company that we can procure the cold form steel. It would cost us, I think, with the way that we're trying to get other product to reduce the price, it would be roughly even with the wood. But you save, for example, in a 10-year period, you would save about $2 million just in the insurance because it's a non-combustible product. So we definitely have looked at that, and that is exactly what we're doing.
Just to add to that, when understanding what Sam's bringing in here, some of those products may end up being very similar in cost, but a much more premium offering to the tenant, just because he can offer something a little nicer for the same cost. And some of those products are coming from Europe as well.
Okay.
And just to add to that, when you think about government affordability, back in the old days, there's a project across from West Edmonton Mall that's a government product where it's for low-income housing. You drive by there, it's prime real estate, but when you drive by there, they look like prison barracks. We're not interested in building prison barracks or something that people are not happy to go to. For example, on our doors, we can order a standard door, but we decide to go three levels up and get a premium entry door, like something that is it's very, very high end. It is a government project, but if I can source it overseas and build a better product, people are more likely to rent in our apartments.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
I just had a question in regards to the CMHC rates. What's the trigger for you to be able to raise them? Is it assessed annually, every few years? You know, as they look at their average, do they call you and say, okay, the average has gone up? How does that work?
My understanding, and again,
Great question.
Would you like to answer that, Brandon?
Yeah, Sam, I can jump in there. Actually, the designated affordable units, it's very prescriptive. So every month, the Government of Canada and Stats Canada issues a CPI index for shelter rental accommodation for a province. The affordability is really pegged on a selected month of 2 months in advance of the renewal at that CPI index for the maximum increase. So really it becomes a form of almost rent control to ensure that rents aren't increasing excessively for those affordable units so that people can be able to kind of enjoy, the benefits of that sort of asset in that sort of housing in a controlled, increased environment. And that's really what has led to kind of the development and in line with the Government of Canada's affordability goals. So it's quick summary. You can only increase them once per year for the affordable units. And it's at a prescribed amount set out by the CPI index for shelter rental accommodation of Alberta.
And if I may add to that, if the CPI is 2.5%, and a lot of the times that's not the reality. The reality is it's 10% in the market. Our hands are tied. We cannot go more than the CPI.
Thanks for that. Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Just a couple other ones. I'm just curious on the project. Is it scalable in phases, or is it just start a building and go? Or I'm just trying to get my head around, is there multiple buildings on this?
So initially we wanted to build the 1,000 apartments, and I think that scared the CMHC.
Okay.
We went back in phases. We scaled it down to 190, so 3 phases. 190, 355, and I think 5 something. Phase 1, 2, 3. The latter phase would be the most. Of course, we talk about you heard it earlier about the goalpost being moved. In November, the government changed the rules, so we had to scale back. And the 190 units, we're doing 135 to start, and then within 6 months, doing another building on the same site for a total of 190 in first phase.
So but the first building footprint's 135?
135, and then within 6 months, another 55.
Okay, and then total build-out's about 1,000 units?
1,000. So just to repeat, 190, 350, and then 5 and change.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I don't see anyone else in the queue. So I thank you for your time. Council, as I mentioned, Council will deal delegation business towards the end of this session. So you're welcome to stick around. If not, someone from administration will follow up with you. But yeah, thanks for coming. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. Much appreciated.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on today's agenda, item number 8 under reports, item 8.1, the 2025 capital budget amendment. I will look to Ms. Whiteway for an introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. So we've recently completed and closed the RFP on the new recreation facility. So Ms. Cajolet is going to introduce the recommendation to increase that capital budget for 2025. Thanks.
Ms. Cajolet.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm as Chief Whiteway mentioned, presenting today to amend the 2025 capital budget to $16.9 million for the indoor rec facility project. This facility is designed to meet the growing demand for indoor turf sports and to enhance recreational opportunities across the community. Although the project was planned and partially funded, recent cost estimates obtained through the RFP process have identified a small shortfall in the existing budget. An amendment is now required to ensure the project can proceed without delay or change in the scope. In terms of funding, land acquisition and site costs were previously approved by Council in February of this year at $2.3 million. Council also approved project funding in April, $10 million through debenture funding, and then another $1.4 allocated to the capital project. The proposed additional funding to address a shortfall is approximately $3.1 million, and that's being proposed from a variety of funding sources, including the public reserve, a reallocation of funds from the future expenditure reserve for warehouse retrofit project, as there were no projects deemed suitable at the time of that report, and then the remaining funding from the financial stabilization reserve. The total project cost with the amendment is $16.9 million. 14.5 of that is for facility construction and servicing and contingency funding, with the $2.3 million being allocated to site costs and land acquisitions. It is noteworthy that this amendment and the proposed funding sources would fully utilize the balance remaining for the public reserve. If the amendment is approved, administration will move forward with awarding the RFP. A value engineering process will follow to identify efficiencies in materials and construction approaches, ensuring that the project remains on budget while maintaining the intent and quality of the facility. In closing, administration recommends that Council approve the proposed amendment to the 2025 capital budget to $16.9 million for the indoor recreation facility. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks for that, Ms. Cajolet. I'll recognize Councillor Bressie first.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I do have two questions the chair will allow me. The first one is, I just want to make sure I understand. So the Future Expenditures Reserve project that's being defunded here, was that money we set aside for potential rec facilities in abandoned properties?
Ms. Cajolet?
Thank you. Through the chair, yes, that was a council motion to explore opportunities to potentially utilize vacant commercial or industrial properties for recreation opportunities.
Great. So money already set aside for recreation, so that makes sense. But I am curious about the overall strategy of drawing from reserves rather than debt funding this and asking future taxpayers to pay for it. Is that just because of the timelines associated with debt bylaws and MGA requirements? Or are there other reasons for why administration is suggesting drawing from reserves rather than increasing debt?
Ms. Whiteway?
Thank you for the question through the chair. So I think there's a couple answers to that question, Councillor Bressie, including, yes, timelines. That's one. The $10 million borrowing bylaw was approved. There is a process for amending that bylaw. So we would have had to go through the same 30-day period for an increase as high as $3.1 million. We're also hopeful that, of course, with any project, there's been a slight contingency built in. We went with a small contingency. But in the case that perhaps we didn't utilize all budget, there was an opportunity, would go reserve first and back to any reserve. Same thing if there was potentially other opportunities for funding down the road in discussions with potential future discussions at the ICC table. That was also considered when not taking debt for the difference.
Great, thank you. No, I appreciate that information. I'm curious. If council did support drawing from reserves from this, but then later down the road we didn't have contingency come in, we didn't have money come in, etc. Down the road, could council say, "Hey, actually, we are going to borrow to replenish these reserves," or would this truly be if this motion passes, then that money is out of reserves and we have no opportunity to debt finance?
Ms. Whiteway?
Thank you, through the chair. Absolutely, if council so chose to do so in the future, that is an option. This project is funded in a mix, which is nice as well, because you've got that past savings. Public reserve, for example, is meant for recreation type of projects. That reserve in particular hadn't really been utilized very often over the past few years. So we thought it best to recommend to use the rest of that rather than have it sit until the next project was available. So a few things there, but you absolutely could replenish reserves if you so decided to in the future. But my recommendation would be to maintain the 10 million debt with the mix of reserves.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. So I don't see anyone else in the queue with questions, so I'd be looking for some business arising. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I'd like to move council approve an amendment to the 2025 capital budget in the amount of $16.9 million for the indoor recreation facility as presented.
All right, that motion is in order. Opportunity for discussion and a debate. Recognizing Councillor Bressie.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I'll be voting no again. And again, this is something where it's not because I think it's an unreasonable way forward. It's just one that I don't personally agree with. I think that, again, I think this is a facility that is going to be well used by the community. It's going to be a great facility, but I didn't vote in favor of it because I do think that we didn't fully explore other opportunities. And I don't even think we've done the full exploration of what exactly do we want to get out of this facility, especially around the outbuildings that are associated with it. We didn't have those full conversations, and I wasn't comfortable moving forward with that. And it was one thing for me to support things like the debt servicing bylaw, where happy to support council implementing the budget that council's set, even if I've lost individual votes in that. But when it comes to amending the actual budget itself, don't have the same comfort going along with that and voting yes to actually, when it comes time to actually change the budget. Also, for me, I get why administration is proposing this big a draw from reserves. Again, it's reasonable, but I just don't like, especially this 1.2 million from the financial stabilization reserve. I'm not comfortable saying, hey, this is a rainy day project and we're pulling from a rainy day. And so, I don't think this is an unreasonable approach, but just not one that I could support.
Thanks for your comments, Councillor Bressie. I had a question for Ms. Whiteway. Just on that piece, if council wanted to, in particularly, add another 1.2 to the borrowing, what would that look like? I know not in regards to debt servicing costs, but timing and really the preference that you mentioned. How would that change things?
Thank you for the question, Mayor Clayton. If council were to choose to debt fund the 1.2 recommended from financial stabilization, the MGA does allow an amendment without the advertising and petition period if it's within 15% of the original bylaw. So where it was approved at 10 million, council could amend that up to 11.5 million and then rather than use financial stabilization borrow.
Okay, all right, thanks for that. Councillor O'Connor.
Yeah, if I can amend my original motion and adding the 1.2 from the borrowing bylaw, it's within the percentage amount, but I should ask administration if that's a path we should take.
Well, two parts there. First, you're asking the chair if you can amend your motion. And sure, I will take that as a friendly change to your motion. The second part of your question is to the CFO if that is something that you recommend. I think she already said no, but that's okay.
My recommendation was to utilize reserves. There is still some unknowns in terms of other potential funding. So the idea being that if anything else came to fruition, financial stabilization would be the first to be repaid. I don't disagree that you could increase the amount of debt. That would require, of course, us to reevaluate the operating budget and make those appropriate amendments. So the additional 1.2 million would impact tax ongoing, but it is something feasible and something that could be considered by council, absolutely.
So taking that information, I won't add an amendment. I'll just leave it the way it is, the original.
Now you're asking for permission to change your motion again?
Well, we never got to that point. We never.
Actually, we did. I said you could change it because you asked. But we'll change it back, and that'll be the last time you do that to the clerk. All right. Councillor O'Connor, anything else before I go to someone else? Okay. Any other comments from my colleagues in regards to that? I did have a question for the CFO. If there were other revenue sources identified in the future, at that point, your recommendation would be to put that back into reserves rather than to apply it towards the debt.
Thank you for the question, Mayor Clayton. Not now it would be, but that is a depends. So it would depend on interest rates that are available at the time and whether the city was in sort of that loss or gain position with our debt.
Okay.
So today, my recommendation would be to, yes, put it against reserves. I can't say in a few years what interest rates are at. My recommendation would depend on that.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Bressie? No. Okay. All right, so we have a motion. The original motion as recommended by administration in the queue. Last call for discussion or debate. Seeing no one, I'll call the question.
Councillor Bressie opposed.
And that carries 6-1. Moving on to committee business under 9.1 today. First in the queue, we have the Investment and Strategy Committee meeting of April 29th. And I will recognize Councillor Bressie for introduction.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I would move that Council accept the minutes of the April 29th, 2025 Investment and Strategy Committee as presented.
The motion is in order. Seeing none in the queue, I'll call the question.
Councillor Bressie in favor.
And that carries unanimously. Councillor Bressie had one item of business today.
Yeah, and thank you, Mayor Clayton. Instead of doing this item of business, I'm actually going to declare a conflict of interest in that I associate with the project that might apply for this. So I'm going to leave the room and ask Councillor O'Connor, who chaired this item when I also recused myself from committee, to do it for me.
All right. Councillor O'Connor, item 9.1.1, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Clayton. I'd like to move council approve policy 356 as amended to extend the barrier-free grant application deadline to December 31st, 2025. And in support of this, I think it's important to allow people that haven't had a chance over the last couple of years to be able to invest. I think there's $71,000 left in this. And I think it's important to allow people to have access. And at the end of December 31st, if there's something in, we'll move it out and put it somewhere else. But I think it's important to leave it in for now.
Thank you for that. That motion is in order. I'll recognize Councillor Palat.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Just a question on the intake on it. I'm just curious if we currently have any in queue that are applying for this grant or not.
I'll give Mr. Tarrant a moment to get to the table.
Sorry, yeah. So two questions for Mr. Tarrant who, from administration is any currently in intake, and when was the last intake that we actually funded?
Mr. Tarrant?
Thank you through the chair. We do not have any applications in queue currently. However, we did have one potential application or applicant reach out a couple weeks ago inquiring if the grant was still open, and we expected them to put one in here shortly. The last one was, I believe, was about 4 or 5 months ago. Was the last one we received.
Okay, so. And I appreciate that from administration. So for me, I can't support us keep going on with this. We push it to March this year. This is money that's being stagnated that could go into a lot of things in our community. And quite honestly, to get $1 in to get $2 out from private investments, just not a great leverage for me. So I can't support it. I do have one more question for administration. If I were to make a motion to try to allocate a different funding source, my intent would be to put this to a funding source that could put into retrofitting potentially our new air covered facility for enhancements, maybe Eastlink Center. What would be the right fund to put that into if we were looking at doing enhancements to some of our current facilities for, it could be for barrier free or it could just be for complete enhancements.
So Ms. Whiteway, so Councillor Plot's question, if this is defeated, that allocated money, where could it be put so that it could be accessed for other projects, as Councillor Plot asked?
Thank you, through the mayor. I would recommend restricting it within the future expenditures reserve with the specific details of what the restriction was for. So that's where we typically hold project funds that might span multiple years. So that would be my recommendation. Could there be consideration for it to go to Council Strategic Initiatives? Absolutely. I'm thinking, I think I know where Councillor Plot's going with this. I'm just wondering if that's an easier, or if it makes sense for it to go there. Yeah, to be quite honest, both of those would work. And if it does fit well with council's priorities, so that could work too. Either reserve would work. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, appreciate that. So would I be better to just ask my council colleagues to defeat this, or should I make an amending motion now? No, any amendment that I can see would be contrary to the motion currently. Yep. So I would suggest that you find some colleagues to support or defeat this motion. So I think you already identified why you'd like to. If you have anything else to add, go ahead, and then I have Councillor O'Toole in the queue. Okay, thanks for that. No, I'm going to urge my colleagues to defeat this motion. I think we've seen just in this last term, and I appreciate Mayor Clayton talking about council strategic initiatives. We did our food security study. Huge thing that could have a long way to go in our community. I'm not sure the $76,000 is moving the needle, and it's been open for over 4 years now for this. So I'm going to urge council to defeat this motion. I think there's a better use for this fund within our community. I'm happy to say we've tried. We've been trying for 4 years to do this fund now. So I don't think that I feel bad if we turn this tap off. It's been open for 4 years. So again, hope we can defeat this and put this money to better use in our community.
I'll recognize Councillor O'Toole first.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. As a person that sits on the community, what do you call it, people with disabilities board, part of me says we should continue with this, but on the other hand, when I heard the report, we haven't had a lot of support, or we've given the support, but nobody's accepted any in the last little bit. And I hate to have money sitting in the bank doing nothing when we can be using it in another avenue. So I will support Ms. Councillor Plot, and the accessibility committee may hang me, but at the end of the day, I'm supposed to support the city in things that are going to do benefits. And I'm really having a hard time making that decision, but I have made it, and I think that Mr. Councillor Plot is on the right track. Thank you.
Councillor O'Toole. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton.
I can talk again if you want.
We're good.
No. Be quiet.
Thank you.
Just a quick question to Mr. Tarrant. How many programs have taken advantages? I think there's been at least 14?
16 in the report.
16 in the report that have utilized this. It's not like it's not been utilized. So I think we do know that there's an application coming forward. I think that would handicap, using the word in the right way, would handicap any future development that may be coming in the next couple of months. So I would request all of council to support this, and if that isn't taken up, then allow the money to be moved forward if it isn't all used up. So I request that we support this motion and keep it in there until it's used up. Thank you.
Anything to add, Mr. Tarrant? Okay. So I'm just going to highlight that in the report from 2021 to 2024, so over a 3-year period of time, 16 barrier-free grants were awarded. $128,000 in total was granted. Private investment matched that 2-to-1 for $261,000. So a 2-to-1 investment. The breakdown is between professional services, eating, establishments, healthcare, retail, etc. My question, Mr. Tarrant, do you happen to know if there are any applications that were refused There were 16 approved. Was there any that were denied?
Through the chair, I don't have that information at this time.
So I will support Councillor Plot's intent to defeat this motion. I think that if the next council wants to rehabilitate a new fund and try it again for another 3 years, then that's fair. Keeping in mind that anything new that's built in our city, the standards have changed. These buildings will come with the expected barrier-free initiatives. This is really for retrofitting of buildings, but in particular, why I'm interested in putting that money back to Council Strategic Initiative. I think there are other grants that we started, maybe this term or last term, that I'm hearing in the community would really be preferred. And one of them is a safety grant that we did where businesses could have an application to put additional motion center lights on the exterior of their buildings, to put support with cameras. And I'm hearing from some businesses that they really appreciated that grant. That grant went and did its due course. And I think it's something that could be considered again. So I think this was an incredible initiative. It was well utilized. There appears to be a lull in it right now, and so to utilize that money for other needs, I think, is a wise decision. So I will support Councillor Plot's initiative. I will recognize Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. I think it's interesting that Councillor Plot has put this forward. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm at the edge of the cliff where I'm ready to jump off and say, well, we tried, but now it's time to grants over the course of the last 4 years. I think it's fairly good. I walked into several businesses who could obviously employ it and likely haven't because they don't even know that this grant exists for them. I think we're on the precipice, too, of a very special event that's coming this summer, the Special Olympics. Sometimes when things are right in your face and people are addressing those situations such as, hey, your bathroom stall door is opening the wrong way, a lot of times businesses aren't aware that we're going to have a big influx of persons with special abilities coming to our town with their families and friends, and I'm sure they're going to want to access as many businesses as possible. And whether or not those businesses are prepared to handle the accessibility of some of their patrons, I feel like that would be an opportunity where a business gets light bulbed where they're like, oh, well, I have this. And that gives us an opportunity to say, hey, by the way, we have this available for retrofitting your business or whatnot. So I'm sort of on the same boat with Councillor O'Connor where I want to ensure that, we have these funds available. This is an initiative that was built by this council, and I certainly feel that the next council should have their option to continue with this or to disseminate that. But to just clear it all together, to me it seems like someone's going to have to come up with the idea or delegation's going to have to come in and say, what can you do to improve accessibility in older businesses? So for all those reasons, I'm more than comfortable. This is $70,000 that may or may not be used, may or may not go back into general revenue, but I'm perfectly comfortable with having it during a special time for the city of Grande Prairie, and they realize, oh, well, I better get in on this because this is probably not going to be here next year. So for now, I'm okay with keeping it, and I don't know in May how far those grants are going to go in this year as we work to restructure it and to say, hey, this is there. I know going to council strategic initiatives is an option, but that doesn't really restrict it. That makes it more of a council decision. So for all those reasons, I will be supporting the original motion and voting against Councillor Platt's motion. Thank you.
Councillor Blackmore.
I have a question for Mr. Turat, and I really feel that I should already know the answer to this, so I apologize that I don't. But when InvestGP visits businesses, which you do considerable amount of business visits, do you discuss the options for potential grants that would improve their business, improve access to their business, improve the looks of their business? Is that part of the InvestGP visit protocol, for lack for lack of a better word.
Mr. Tarrant?
Yes, through the chair, we do have a number of grants that are available to local businesses that we make sure are made available to those businesses as we visit them and attend different mixers and interact with the business community. Make sure that they're aware of both the barrier-free grants that was open, as well as the beautification and patio grant that is open right now, as well as some of the other development grants that they can access currently.
So I feel that InvestGP and our city staff have likely done a very good job of introducing those grants to businesses. And if after 4 years they're not taking us up on it, I would say that we've met the need in the community, and it's time to maybe reconsider how we look at things. So I will support. I will not support the motion that's on the floor right now.
All right, so I'll go to Councillor O'Connor to close, if you choose.
Thank you. I can see where things are going, so please call the question.
Okay, so I'll call the question on approving policy 356 as amended, which would extend the deadline to December 31st. A vote yes would extend it. A vote no would not extend it. I apologize, I missed you in the queue, Wade. Okay. And that motion is defeated 2-4. Recognizing Councillor Palat.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. And yeah, I do want to go and say I'm very proud of the work we've done, that we've had 16 people that have applied for this over the 4 years. I do think it was a great one. As being back on the Economic Development Recovery Committee at the time was one of the ones we come up with. And it's another reason I don't want to stagnate money, is because I think you got committees like the Economic Development Committee that would like to know there's funding that they could try to bring a new idea forward. So I'd like to make a motion that Council allocates $76,751 remaining from the barrier-free application grant to our Council strategic initiatives.
All right, so we'll give the clerk a moment to catch up on that. And yeah, I think, sorry. Yep. Okay, so in the queue, the motion is Council allocate $76,751 to the Council Strategic Initiatives Fund. Does that reflect what your Councillor Palat?
Sorry, I'm just wondering from administration, should it be coming from the barrier-free grant? Like, does it need to say that specifically? Okay, thank you.
All right. So I think that's getting amended. I will recognize Councillor Thiessen while we get that motion clearly worded. Go ahead, Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. Just a question for administration. What is our Strategic Initiatives Fund currently at for this council? And just a background as to why I'm asking, to say the intent of Councillor Platt's motion, is that for Strategic Initiatives Fund for this council this year or for the council next year that we've set aside?
So I will go to Ms. Whiteway if you happen to have that current status number, and then I'll go to Councillor Platt to answer his intent specifically. Ms. Whiteway.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. The balance as of March 31st, 2025 was $1.9 million.
In regards to the money that we transferred with our budget overages, I know that Councillor Berg had asked specifically, will this be money left over for the next council, or will this be going to this council? And he also had specific questions about how much money this council started with. So is that 1.9 the money that we had set aside at our previous council meeting?
Ms. Whiteway.
Thank you for the question. Sorry, bear with me one moment. Your 1.9 is fully allocated. That does not include what was allocated at Q4 because that was done in April, sorry, and I looked up the last balance of March 31st. So there was a bit of a timing, sorry, in my answer. So you're right. When you allocated the 2024 surplus, that's an addition. The intention was that would support the next council term from 26 to 29. And everything in council strategic initiatives for this term has been allocated and utilized.
So the current fund for this council was spent, and the 1.9 is what's been earmarked so far for the new council to start with, just so I'm clear.
Sorry, thank you. The 1.9 is what's been allocated and available, and I'll just need to go back and refresh on that total amount from the last report. Sorry.
Okay, we're just going to take a moment to pause here to get that information, Councillor Thiessen.
That's cool.
Okay, sorry about that, Mayor Clayton.
Right.
So the 2.043 million is what was set aside April 21st for the 26-29 term. You will receive a report for Q1 that does state 1.9 million, but that's what's left to be spent but has been entirely allocated. So just for an example, there's a few capital projects that were approved. They've just not yet been spent, but they'll be demonstrated in the balance. So you've basically have nothing left.
But it's been all allocated.
Right. And then the additional 2 million is going forward was the intention with that.
And I'll ask just because the intent is that for the next council, but it's currently sitting there.
Correct.
Okay. Does that help, Councillor Thiessen, of what you were looking for?
Well, I guess just correct me if I'm wrong or not. Depending on where Councillor Platt's motion goes, if that $76,000 is available for this council, then that would leave $76,000 available in the strategic planning initiatives for this council, or we would add it to the next councils and it would be untouchable for this council?
I think Ms. Whiteway said that all of the money in strategic initiatives is actually touchable by this council. The intent for that 2 million approximately was for the next council. The 76,000 that Councillor Plott is removing, that was removed from the barrier-free grant, I think his intent would be to spend it this term. If it wasn't spent, it would get added to the 2 million, and the next council would start with just under 3 million in a strategic initiatives fund. Am I correct, Ms. Whiteway?
The next council would start with the
2 and million, the 76 if it wasn't spent.
Right, so about 2.1 million.
Right. Okay. Councillor Plott, did you have, sorry, Councillor Thiessen, Councillor Plott, did you want to answer that? Was your intent for this to be added to the fund for next council, or did you have a plan for this?
I guess for me, I thought it would go to this council, and if we didn't use it, it would roll to the next council.
Right.
I just want to confirm that's okay. If that's the way it would go, that would be great.
Okay.
The way I thought it was too.
So the motion is in your queue. I don't see, or in your e-scribe, I don't see anyone in the queue with discussion or debate. So I'll call the question on allocating that barrier-free grant money to Council Strategic Initiatives Fund. And that is carried 6-1. I will now move on to, my apologies, Councillor Bressy, did you have any highlights from your meeting you'd like to go over?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. It was a good meeting in that we got to do one of my favorite things, and that is hear from community groups that are doing some excellent work. And amongst them, we got to hear from STARS and the Regional Tourism Association, and got to hear about how our support of them is going to impact the community, and talk with them about ways that we thought that we could partner with them to make an even bigger impact in the community. I especially want to highlight to community members that if they want to personally support STARS, there's a great event in the fall that they should come to, as well as buying their calendars of Canadian Tire and their Band-Aids as well. And then we also had a delegation come, and it was very similar to the delegation we had earlier today, talking about property tax incentives for residential buildings. And that's something we can discuss more if members want when it comes time to do delegation business of this meeting.
All right. Thanks for that. Moving on to item 9.2, the Financial Administrative Services Committee meeting held on April 29th. And I will ask that Councillor Thiessen introduce that one, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. In light of the absence of our chair, I would move that Council adopt the minutes of the Financial Administrative Services Committee meeting held April 29th as presented.
Thanks for that motion. Seeing no one in the queue, I'll call the question. That carries unanimously. Couple items of business, Councillor Thiessen.
You bet, Mayor Clayton. I would move that Council give first reading to Property Tax Bylaw C-1486. And yeah, just leave it at there right now.
Perfect. Thanks for that. No discussion or debate on first reading, so I'll call the question. That carries unanimously. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I would move Council give second reading to Property Tax Bylaw C-1486. This is tax bylaw to set the property tax for the upcoming year.
Motion is in order. Opportunity for questions to administration, discussion or debate. Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Definitely happy to support. I'm just curious. I know in the package, and there's going to be a lot of conversation about the property tax increase with the school tax. Just wanted to get, I guess, confirmation from administration that we're going to be doing some kind of leaflet or extra information just to kind of show folks that our administration and council did as much as we possibly could to keep the rate down, but a lot of this is not within our purview and our control.
Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. We have redesigned the tax brochure that goes in every mailing to every property owner. On the back of it is a single panel explaining the 9% increase from the province with a big yellow and red heading that will clearly identify that it's an important message to read. We'll also be doing some further communication on that, but every household or property owner will receive a redesigned tax brochure this year.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no one else in the queue, I'll call the question on second reading. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I move that Council have third reading of Property Tax Bylaw C-1486 at this meeting.
Thank you for that motion. In order for us to have third reading here tonight, this must pass unanimously. Call the question. And that too carries unanimously. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. And Council, I move that Council give third reading to Property Tax Bylaw C-1486.
Thank you for that motion. That motion is in order. Seeing no one in the queue, I'll call the question. And that too carries unanimously. Moving on to item 9.2.2, Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, we're going to do a borrowing bylaw right now. So I would move that Council give first reading to Bylaw C-1478 as presented.
All right, so that's a borrowing bylaw for the Montrose Cultural Centre. That motion is in order. Opportunity for questions, discussion, or debate. Sorry, I apologize. It's first reading. There is no discussion or debate. So I'll call the question on first reading. And that carries unanimously. Thanks for that, Councillor Thiessen. Any highlights from the meeting?
Yeah, we're going to return to the borrowing bylaw business at our next council meeting. But in the meantime, our service area update highlights from the Financial Committee. Administration is preparing the 2025 Q1 unaudited statements and beginning budget preparations for the upcoming fall. In GIS, administration has been managing cybersecurity responses and reminding staff to stay vigilant and exercise caution. In fact, every person should stay vigilant and exercise caution. Data is an emerging new resource that people want to tap into. So in order to do that, the development of sorry, never mind. I moved on to another thing. But the development of online mapping solutions and venue tracking apps for the Special Olympics has been completed, and those events are coming up this summer. And that is all.
Thanks for that, Councillor Thiessen. Appreciate you stepping in. Moving on to item 9.3, the Operational Services Committee meeting held on April 29th. And I will turn this one over to Councillor Palat.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I just make a motion that Council adopt the minutes of the Operational Services Committee meeting held April 29th as presented.
Motion is in order. Seeing no one in the queue, I'll call the question. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Palat, one item of business tonight.
Yeah, I'd make a motion that Council identify that all the portion of Road 952-3580 and Road Plan 782-2397 as prescribed in Bylaw C-1326 as marketable land and approve the sale of the property to Costco wholesale for the purchase price of $50,000, subject to the conditions of sales agreement satisfactory to the city manager and city solicitor. And just to speak to this a bit, this is an ongoing piece of land that we've had negotiations back and forth with Costco. They're going to be able to utilize this to make their parking lot bigger. And with this acquisition, we'll actually see a little bit of a tax increase to our bottom line as well. So hopefully we can support this.
Thanks for that motion. The motion is in order. I see no one in the queue, and no one online. I'll call the question. That carries unanimously. A couple highlights from your meeting, Councillor Palat.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. We had a service area update from our Chief Glavin. Our engineering and transportation services spring cleanup activities continue. Center Islands are largely complete and crews are 80% done grass boulevards. Traffic signal repair program work is underway and with a full signal replacement at 97th Ave and 100th Street and various repairs throughout the city. I have to say the roads look great, so I want to thank administration on that for this time of the year. I feel like we're way ahead of other years. Environment and Parks Administration is focusing on sanitation and litter cleanup. The Earth Day event had over 550 people in attendance. In transit services, our on-demand transit service is scheduled to extend to the Copperwood subdivision in June. There's been a large increase in charter service requests in 2025, and our ridership is up 8.5% in Q1 compared to 2024. Thanks, Mayor Clayton.
Thanks for that, Councillor Platt. Moving on to item 9.4, the Public and Protective Services Committee meeting, also held April 29th, and I'll turn this one over to Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. This was my chair committee, so I would move that Council adopt the minutes of the Public and Protective Services Committee held on the same date of April 29th as presented.
Thanks for that. That motion is in order. I'll call the question. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Thiessen, one item of business today.
Well, it's actually multiple items of business, all folded into one item of business. Just speaking to that here before I make any motions, new outdoor events permit bylaw, as well as two proposed amending bylaws. And the first of these amending bylaws will come to the traffic bylaw amending bylaw, and it will replace special events provisions in the traffic bylaw. The second, the fees, rates, and charges bylaw, has the effect of replacing references to special events and make the language a lot more consistent, as well as establishing fees, rates, and charges bylaws with references to outdoor events. And it also sets out an automatic 20% discount in the outdoor events related fees charged to nonprofit organizations. In saying all that, I'll start with the motions. The first one being bylaw C-1487. I would move that Council give first reading to bylaw C-1487, being the new outdoor event permit bylaw.
Thanks for that motion, Councillor Thiessen. It is in order, and there is no discussion or debate on first reading. I'll call the question. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I would move that Council gives second reading to bylaw C-1487, being the new outdoor event permit bylaw.
Thanks for that. Opportunity for questions for administration, discussion, debate. Seeing no one, I'll call the question. Please vote. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Thiessen.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I move that we have third reading at this meeting.
In order for us to have third reading here today, this must pass unanimously. Call the question. That carries unanimously. Councillor Thiessen.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I move that Council give third reading to Bylaw C-1487, the new outdoor event permit bylaw.
The motion is in order. Seeing no one in the queue or no one online, I'll call the question. Please vote. And it carries unanimously. Councillor Thiessen.
All right, item number 2, we'll move that Council give first reading to Bylaw C-1166L, being an amendment to the traffic bylaw.
Thank you for that. No discussion or debate on first reading. I'll call the question. Please vote. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I'd move that Council give second reading to Bylaw C-1166L, being an amendment to the traffic bylaw.
Thank you for that. I'll call the question. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I'd move that we have third reading at this meeting.
In order for us to have third reading here, this must pass unanimously. Seeing no one in the queue or no one online, I'll call the question. Please vote. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Thiessen.
Thanks for that, Council. I would move that Council give third reading to Bylaw C-1166L, being an amendment to the traffic bylaw.
Thanks for that, Councillor Thiessen. Seeing no one in the queue, call the question. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. On to new business. I would move that Council give first reading to Bylaw C-1395Q, being an amendment to the fees, rates, and charges bylaw.
Motion is in order. As with the others, no discussion or debate on first reading, so I'll call the question. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you again, Mayor Clayton. I'd move that Council give second reading to Bylaw C-1395Q, being an amendment to the fees, rates, and charges bylaw. And just speaking to this motion, this bylaw will set aside fees, rates, and charges for the cost of staff of doing business. Now, reduced rates definitely for not-for-profits, but this would be a discussion with any proponent that wants to have a festival, parade, or use city lands, and any associated charges such as setting up bollards, doing traffic, or otherwise, that would be charged to the festival organizers.
Thanks for that, Councillor Thiessen. Seeing no one in the queue, I'll call the question. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. I would move that Council have third reading at this meeting.
The motion is in order. In order for us to have third reading here today, as with the others, it must pass unanimously. Seeing no one in the queue, I will call the question. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I would move that Council give third reading to Bylaw C-1395Q, being an amendment to the fees, rates, and charges bylaw.
Thank you for that motion. I'll call the question. That carries unanimously. Now, under the same theme of outdoor events, there's one other item of business there, Councillor Thiessen.
You betcha. Like I said, there's 4 in 1 over here today in the corner of one business. I would move that Council approve the following message to be included into the outdoor event permit bylaw. It is hereby established that the purpose, overall theme, and intended expression of the city's Canada Day Parade is to unite the community in a vibrant celebration of Canada Day, showcasing national pride, period. Just speaking to this motion, at times, Council and administration have both struggled with what the Canada Day parade means to the residents of our community. Now, some businesses choose to, minimally decorate their vehicle float and advertise and solicit to many members of our community for a very reasonable advertising fee to participate in the parade. Other members of our community have seen that it is an opportunity for them to participate in protest. This is just laying down the guidelines for our administration to be able to have standing in the spirit of this statement that says that when we are celebrating Canada Day, we are celebrating Canada Day. So please decorate your floats and please find a better time to protest your government or anything you want to protest on any other day besides our Canada Day parade day. And with that being said, I hope Council will support this motion.
Is that Councillor Thiessen? I see no one in the queue, so I will call the question. That carries unanimously. If you wanted to do a couple meeting highlights, Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, if you know Chief Lemieux, he's got a super busy service area, and we've got paragraphs to go over here, but I've condensed it into the most succinct ways, hopefully, if I can do that possibly. But in our service area updates, peace officers are actively addressing. I know you guys don't believe me there, but I got it set here. So our peace officers are actively addressing the significant foxtail infestations across the city. As council remembers, we've even added foxtail to our noxious weeds. So notices have been issued to property owners and or their representatives, urging them to control the weed before it goes to seed. And furthermore, Mobile Outreach has participated in joint operations with RCMP and Grande Prairie Police Services, including UTV patrols throughout the parks and trail systems. These coordinated efforts aim to provide safety support to vulnerable populations and ensure these public spaces remain accessible and welcoming for all users. Through tailored case management, advocacy, and community referrals, our youth caseworkers supported one youth previously not on track to graduate, successfully helped them complete high school through the efforts that they made to get them back on track. Another youth referred while experiencing homelessness and lacking support was connected to services and has since secured stable housing. So a couple good news stories out of there. Something we talked about at our last council meeting, the Access Now tool launched publicly on the city website on April 21st, actively shared across the city's social media channels and our website, and the response from the public has been overwhelmingly positive. So this is great. People know when our facilities are open and when the programs are opening, and they have an easy way to be notified. And if you aren't signed up yet, I would highly encourage you to sign up. On to more good news stories. And speaking of the Eastlink Center, they have partnered with St. Joseph's High School to launch the first school-based advanced aquatic certification program of its kind in the entire province. So this innovative partnership allows high school students to complete life-saving training for credits during the school semester, helping them hopefully to graduate high school and supporting future workforce development while promoting water safety and education in our community. This program will launch at the start of the school season in 2025 this fall, and it looks to be hopefully a successful and growing partnership that will spur on the same types of programs across the province. The Eastlink Center Fieldhouse floor will be undergoing a refurbishment from June 2nd to 22nd, and thereby will be closed. Operations there will resume on June 23rd. And speaking of closures, I know nobody likes to hear this, but the annual aquatic shutdown has been scheduled for September 1st to October 5th. So get your swimming in the summer while you can. And finally, GP 911 is now fully operational and supported by a fully redundant infrastructure designed to maintain uninterrupted service. Our outage last week was beyond the city's control, and a comprehensive review has been formally requested from the service provider to ensure transparency and accountability, and hopefully the fact that it will never happen again. And besides our city events update and the potential of adding rides, that is all I have for the business that we did on April 29th. Thank you, Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Councillor Thiessen. Just before we leave the the conversation around public and protective services. I wondered if Chief Lemieux, if you might happen to have an update in regards to the fires that were, let's say, significant yesterday in the county and in the city border.
Yes, I certainly do. Thank you, Madam Chair. So as you are fully aware, there was a wildfire that started in the afternoon of May the 4th yesterday near Deer Ridge Estate in the county of Grande Prairie, south of the city's border. The initial response by the county fire was supported through mutual aid agreement with the city's fire department and also Alberta Forestry. The Grande Prairie Regional Emergency Partnership was activated around 5 p.m. yesterday to support the operation. An emergency coordination center was established in the county of Grande Prairie, and the Emergency Coordination Center staff are supporting the Unified Command, which is a unified command dealing with this situation between County of Grande Prairie and Alberta Wildfire. Evacuees, there was an evacuation order, and I'll show my screen. You could see the area that's in question and evacuation order for this particular area that's bordered in red. There was a reception center set up and manned by the Grande Prairie Regional Emergency Partnership that was at the Pomeroy Hotel in Grande Prairie. This fire, you could see the red area here is actually where the fire boundary. It is now 90% contained. Thank you to the good work of the fire crews and the support they received from Alberta Wildfire. I'll show a couple more photographs. You can see in this photograph, the red band is fire retardant that was spread by the air operations yesterday, which really helped contain the fire. And the last picture that I will share with you is this one. And the reason I want to share this picture is you see where the fire progressed here, but this particular residence did a good job of using fire smart programs by removing flammables from around their structure, and there was no damage to that structure. I'm happy to report that there were no structures lost as a result of this fire, and again, it's 90% contained, so we're hoping to get some more news here later today or tomorrow in terms of the status there. And also, I'll note that a complete fire ban has now been issued in the city and county of Grande Prairie. And that's my update, Madam Chair.
Thanks so much for that, Chief. I really appreciate it. And also just want to thank you for the work. And if you could pass on our thanks to Chief Van Werkhoven and his colleagues, as well as the county fire department, for the significant work that they put in yesterday. Moving on today's agenda, there were no items of correspondence, and moved to item 11 under delegation business. One delegation today. Opportunity Council, if you have questions for administration, now would be the appropriate time for that. And I will recognize Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. It was a great report by the Osman Group, and I was wondering if administration would entertain looking at extending the program for 10 years and reducing taxes on a reducing rate to help this group make the project go forward. So who would be able to?
Sure. Just before I give that over to Mr. Burke, I guess the question for me, based on your question, would be if it's 10 years, are you looking, right now the plan is over 6 years and it's very prescriptive. Initially, the proponent and other proponents had asked for a 15-year sliding scale. So would your question be more about adding years on at the front at 0%, or adding years on, because it currently goes 0, 0, 50, 75, I can't recall the exact numbers, but it's quite prescribed right now. And so before I turn over Mr. Burke, did you have a preference of what you think administration might be able to
I'm open
answer?
for interpretation as to what would work best financially, but also to help the Osman Group be able to build one of these structures, which we need very deeply.
So, Mr. Burke, if council was interested in extending a program to be a 10-year program, does administration have a recommendation on what that financial representation would look like? And if not, what else would you need from council before you went away to explore any changes?
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I would also remind that any program we develop can't be project specific. That it would be for a range of projects that could be eligible to apply. What we would require, we would take direction from council to go away and bring back options for implementation. Some direction on whether the intent is to add on to the current program or whether it is to revamp a program would be useful, and whether it was a sliding scale of some kind. We are happy to bring back options along that, but just some of that high level direction would be appreciated at this time.
Okay, so maybe before I go to Councillor Plott, can somebody from CLT or Mr. Tarrant remind council exactly the numbers in the current program that was approved? Mr. Tarrant's coming. Mr. Tarrant.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. So the program that was approved was a 4-year tax rebate program, 3 years at 100% and the 4th year at 50%.
So 3 years at 0 and 1 year at 50, right?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I guess I have a question for administration. I'm just, I'm wondering, are we allowed to have 2 different options? Like we have the option that's currently there for certain projects.
Because that one was over 30 units, correct?
Correct, yeah, it was for 30 units or more.
So I'm wondering, and I guess for me, I'm wondering that, because the proponent's looking at a larger project, could we in essence have 2 ones? And I guess where I'm asking, my question for administration is more, we used to have a development incentive grant for commercial. It was over a 10-year where it staggered 10% a year, and it was over, I think it was a $25 million threshold or something. I'm just wondering how hard it would be if we looked at using that same criteria and maybe didn't use a $25 million threshold, but used 125 units as the threshold that you would have to cross that. And my thinking here is that I'd like to see them both stay in place. I think if there's bigger projects, I think something like this might be a better sliding scale for the bigger proponents. But I don't want to see the smaller units not have an option as well. So just wondering if that would be an opportunity to do that. So 2 questions. Can we have 2 different programs in place? And if we did, was the second one better to be triggered to a dollar amount or to units?
Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Yes, we could have create a new program for larger projects. Our recommendation would be to be based on units. That would be an easier administrative exercise for, I think, both the proponent and administration. So whether that was 100 units or 125 units, identifying that would be useful today. But we can develop a second program here.
Okay, thanks, Mayor Clayton. I'll be happy to make a motion, but I'd like to hear colleagues if they have.
Okay, yeah, I'll recognize Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I am sympathetic to developers who are trying to really build a better Grande Prairie, build a better tomorrow for Grande Prairie. And I understand that this is not an easy market to wade into. So my question for the CAO Burke is how much, this is obviously going to be another delay, and I'm wondering how much time would administration need to put together something? How fast can we get it back should we choose to make any changes?
Changes or even add a second sort of classification. Mr. Burke.
We've moved fairly quickly on this, and if there was some general criteria, I'll come to back as soon as possible. I think we've demonstrated that we've been willing to move quickly on this. I'm hesitant to put a finite timeline on it, but they'll appreciate that projects going this year need this certainty at this time. So I'll make best efforts to bring it back as soon as possible, and just ask for some latitude on what that date is.
And with latitude, can you give me a little bit more information? Are we talking a few weeks?
That's likely possible in a few weeks. I just would have to determine whether we're coming back to committee or straight to council would be just how.
So straight to council would make it quicker?
Potentially, yes.
Okay. Councillor Thiessen. Sorry, Councillor Blackmore, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if maybe there's an opportunity to bring it back to Council Committee of the Whole before gets to council, it's easier for these kind of discussions to take place with the whole of council. I'm okay with it going straight to council or to council committee of the whole. That would be my preference.
That's possible as well. Yeah, you bet. Councillor Thiessen. Oh, I lost him. Okay. I'm going to give us just a couple of minutes because Councillor Thiessen was in the queue, but he's currently not on the screen, so I'll give him a minute to re-sign in. Maybe while he's re-signing in, I will give Councillor Plott a moment to put his motion on the table, and I will allow Councillor Thiessen to ask questions of administration once he gets back in. Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Yeah, I guess for me, I'd like to see us have two different programs. I like the program we put in place. I think 30 units is a smaller threshold. So my motion would be that we do a 10-year program with a minimum of 125 units. There would be a sliding scale that would start with only paying 10%, 0% the first year, 10% the second year, 20%, and it would slide like that to the 10-year. I think that basically mirrors the commercial one we had in place. And my intent would hopefully be to have it as close to that commercial one as well. So 10-year sliding scale with 125 units minimum, and to come back to the appropriate either CCW or council meeting, whatever would come first that administration could make work. Appreciating that, you know, it could happen in weeks, but it might happen in a month. But just, we all know there's urgency, and I'm pretty confident administration is going to do whatever they can to get it to us as soon as possible.
Thanks for that. And Councillor Thiessen, I know you lost a signal there for a minute, so feel free to ask questions of administration. I did get the motion on the floor just while you were getting signed in again, but feel free to ask questions to administration. You're up, Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. Yeah, sorry about that. My question, can you hear me?
You bet.
Okay, cool. My question is just simple. If we're talking about 10-year or 15-year, how much property tax are we seeing go by? Are we talking $2 million? Are we talking $3 million? Like, how much to provide services?
Sorry, just give me a little bit more clarification on your question. Is your question, if the program was 10 years versus 15 years, what the difference on a X number valued building would be, or specifically? Could you just give us a bit more?
Yeah, well, just a spitball range. Like, what does the city stand to lose by creating a deal such as this? Like, I know we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, so moving forward, I guess I just need that before I make any statements.
So, I think I have a number in my head, and Ms. Whiteway, maybe that'll help you. I'm thinking around a $25 million project has $130,000 in property taxes. Let's just spitball here, and we won't hold it to you. Just to give Councillor Thiessen some, he's trying to figure out what potential loss of revenue there is over 10 years.
Certainly. Mayor Clayton, on this one, the one presented by the delegate, we had assumed around 300,000.
Sorry, 300,000 on 25 million, correct?
Annually, not including any increases in tax rates by council over the next 25 years as well.
So does that help, Councillor Thiessen? On a $25 million project, is about $300,000 in property taxes.
Yeah, definitely that does help out. For me, I'm really struggling with this because I feel like it's a slippery slope, and it creates so many administrative challenges. So when we create and maintain a financial incentive program or develop a unique tax rate, it not only requires staff resources, but these charges are typically also require ongoing communication, legal support, and otherwise, and usually aren't mixed in with the business plan. Usually when we're talking about developing the business case, if the business case is unfavorable without a property tax concessions and the property owner's margins are too small, sometimes the tax concessions are unlikely to alter the equation and makes it unmanageable. So there is still an element of risk for the municipality of potentially opening up a hole and not having it open. The other part of it is that we can't show any favoritism to one property owner over the other. Now, I know that Councillor Palat's motion is stating over 100 units, but without any kind of defined and principled decision-making process, like we could see maybe $300,000 a year go out the window. If we have 2 more apartment buildings come in like this asking for the same deal, we'd almost be obliged to give it to them because we can't show favoritism to one and not the other. So it makes it very, very hard for us to go back on that. I look forward to the discussion. Maybe you can change my mind, but right now I'm not sure this is a solution.
Thanks for your comments, Councillor Thiessen. I just wanted to clarify with Councillor Plott, your intent would be for this program to be open to any proponents, correct?
Mayor Clayton, I guess I assume, because I don't think we're allowed to single source any of this stuff, so I would assume that it would have to be open for anybody that meets that criteria.
Perfect.
When I get back in queue, I'll have a couple more questions for Ben on that too.
Okay. Councillor Blackmore.
My question is actually for Councillor Palat. I'm wondering if your motion is maybe too specific. I would be interested in hearing what administration could come up with if we were looking at a 15-year program, if we were looking at bare ground taxes only during the construction period, which is what we've currently done. I just would like a little more flexibility, and I thought your motion was quite prescriptive. I don't know how you feel about that, if you are open to amending that slightly to make it less prescriptive.
Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I guess I'm open to amendments. I'm as I'm rereading this, I try to leave it as open as I could. I think 125 units as a minimum is really the only criteria that's on there. Happy to hear other thoughts.
Well, you do say 10 years, right?
Yeah, so a 10-year and 125 units is the only 2 things that I've got in there that are, I guess, prescribed items. And the reason I chose the 10 years, I know the proponent was looking for 15 years. I'm even similar to Councillor Thiessen. I'm okay with us defaulting some revenue for a point of time. 15 years is just a little bit too long for me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor O'Connor. Sorry, you're out of the queue now. Did you want back in? I have others. Okay, Councillor O'Toole.
I don't know if you can hear me or not. My phone's been doing. Okay, I was going to vote against all of this tonight. We said at one time 5 years was going to be the limit, and don't come back. And then other people come back, and but I do understand there's a housing need, and I do understand that building apartments, condo units or apartments, is expensive. This is on the more of a higher end apartment where there's indoor parking, and that would bring in a different clientele for sure than the regular just park on the street or park in the parking lot. I like the motion that was brought up, 125 units for 10 years, as well as the 30 units for the same amount of time. And I like the buy-in plan of 0, then 10, and then after that 20. And so this will be the last time I support a project like this for any changes. And I'm going to be stuck on these numbers. If it passes, it's great. If somebody else wants to come to the table and come up with another project, then those are the numbers that we're going to stick with, I hope. And I think we've done as much as the city should, and even more. I talked to a few developers, and if there was money in it right away, it would be lots of people jumping at it. And when he said he's taking a risk, well, every day when you build a project, there's a risk. And I'm good with what's on there, and I don't want to be talked into doing anything else by another developer. I'm very happy with this if it passes. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for your comments, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Thiessen.
Sorry, just fixing my microphone. Just a question for administration. If this motion were to go forward, administration comes back with the plan approval and council approves that, and then we move forward with this, would a group like the Smith Social Housing Corporation be able to capitalize on this no tax agreement?
Mr. Burke.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Under the terms of that deal, we outlined that if there was any other contribution by the city, that being the land at $1, that they wouldn't be eligible for any future programs. So under as currently, they are not eligible for the 30-unit program, or we wouldn't intend to put them eligible for this one. That was a term and condition of the program at the time, or the transfer at the time.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's what I thought.
Okay. I'm going to go to Councillor Plott to close, so you're good. Okay, Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I did actually have one more question for admin before I close. I just, one of my concerns, and I'm happy to have something like this work if it works for a developer, but my concern is that we did get a bunch of these. So I'm just wondering, is there an opportunity, or is there a way, maybe I need to word it into my motion, I'm not sure the MGA will allow it, but I wouldn't want to see this be a never program, similar like I just debated against not having a barrier-free grant stick around forever. I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to say that for up to 3 projects or 300 units. And my intent with that is I don't really want to see us flood the market. I don't want to see us being in this problem today. We're in this equilibrium saying we need more doors, and then 10 of these projects show up, and now we're going, holy crap, did we saturate the market and we do something the other way? And so as much as I want to see us get doors off the ground, I'm also very, very concerned about our future revenue for the city, and that we go too far the other way and that we have an issue. So I guess question for administration, are we allowed through the MGA to put a clause in there saying up to 3 projects or 300 doors, and then this offer ends, sort of thing? And I guess my hope would be that it would actually get these few proponents that are on the sidelines to get their projects in ASAP, or they might not qualify.
So the other program expired at the end of this year. You could put that on it. In regards to capping the number of projects under the current expansion of the tax abatement on the MGA, I'm not familiar. Mr. Burke?
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. That's something I'd have to get some further legal advice on. I'd say from the direction I have today, our intent was to mirror the 30-unit program, which had a end-of-year building permit requirement, and there's some other specific language in there. But that would be the intent, to put an end date on this. We'll bring back, as of right now, a program that mirrors the 30-unit program.
So and I appreciate that from administration. Would you like me to amend my motion to say it expires December 31st of 2025 now? So it's in the original motion. So when the report comes back, that's already hopefully dealt with, and council's approved that.
Mr. Burke?
I would. I just want to make sure. How about it's aligned with the 30-unit program, just so we don't have to worry about the exact wording. Okay. I just want to make sure they're aligned. So if it's aligned with the previously approved program, the period would be useful.
Okay. Happy to close, but I'm not sure if anybody else popped in the queue.
I do have others in the queue, so I'll come back to you to close. Councillor Blackmore.
My understanding is that Councillor Plott is requesting information from administration, which will come back, and then we will again debate whether or not we want to do this. Maybe we want it longer, maybe we want it shorter. Those options will come forward at the next meeting where we discuss this motion when we get the information from administration. Can you confirm that that is in fact what's happening, and we're not just passing this right now tonight?
Yeah, the motion is council direct administration to bring back a report. So that would either be to a council committee of the whole or a council meeting, whichever came sooner. Mr. Burke, is that your understanding?
That's correct. There would be another step for approval once the report came back with the specific terms.
Okay, then I can support the motion. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. That was why I was in the queue earlier, and I didn't realize that it was going to come up again. So I'm glad that there will be a potential when we bring it back to Council Committee of the Whole that there is a cap. I'm really concerned that we will handicap the first builder gets into the market, and all of a sudden there's a flood of housing come on, and we can't deal with it. So I think it's important that we make sure that we don't exceed and flood the market.
Yeah, I appreciate your concern. I guess my only comment would be in any active market scenario, first in is always going to have an advantage. So it's quite possible that first in is the only proponent. So Councillor Palat to close.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I guess for me, I can appreciate that we're going to lose some taxes on this. If a project like this goes ahead, we're basically going to lose $1.5 million of revenue over a 10-year period that we would have collected. We'll collect $1.5 million, lose $1.5 million. Having said that, if we do nothing, we're collecting zero right now, and basically we're getting raw land, which is not helping our community when we're in a time of need of doors. So for me, I think it's a calculated risk, one that I'm willing to take. We need doors. We need them in our community badly. I don't like the idea of lost revenue. That's why I put it at a 10-year. And that's why I'd like to see us find a way to have it a cap at some point for it. But I think, unfortunately for us, we didn't, right community to blame the federal government, but it's really unfortunate that our community did not get any rapid housing money from the federal government like most communities in Alberta, and well, not a lot of in Alberta, but in Canada have, when we're in such a dire housing shortage. So this money shouldn't be borne the taxpayers, in my opinion, but we're in a spot where I feel like we don't really have a choice. This should have been money that should have been coming from the federal government. And now, once again, it's a download to us where we have to deal with this, because if we would have had rapid housing money at so much a door, we could have incented these kind of projects with the federal government's money instead of the city of Grande Prairie's money. So not happy about that, but here we are. And so I hope we can support this. I do think we need to signal to the industry that we've got a couple options for them. I hope that this is enough to get them off and move it. And I appreciate the cap rates are tight and they're trying to make things work. If this doesn't work, there's really no more bullets in the gun for the city. This is $1.5 million loss plus the other things that we're willing to absorb. I know for me personally, I couldn't do more than this. This is already hard on my brain to go this far, but I don't think we have much choice. We need doors in our city. So I hope you can support this.
Thanks for your close, Councillor Palat. I'll call the question. That carries unanimously. All right. That is our delegation business. There are no notices of motion tonight, so we will move into a recess and we'll be back at 6 p.m. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Good evening and welcome to the City Council evening session for May 5th, 2025. One item of business tonight, one public hearing. So we will get started on the public hearing, Land Use Bylaw Amendment C-1260-200. I'll call this public hearing to order. Look to Ms. Downing for an introduction, or Ms. Patel. Look for an introduction from administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Administration has received an application to rezone the subject property from Direct Control 9 District to Direct Control 40 District. The subject property is a 1.08 hectares of land located on 102 Street. The land is currently vacant and is zoned as Direct Control 9 District. The subject land is part of North Ridge Area Structure Plan and is designated as highway commercial in the ASP, which provides for a mix of commercial, office, and storage. The proposed amendment from DC 9 to DC 40 is consistent with the North Ridge Area Structure Plan. In 2013, the subject land, along with the two other lots, was rezoned from Commercial Transition District to DC 9 District. The primary reason for rezoning was to address the unique development opportunities and challenges. That is, to allow development of commercial buildings at the front while allowing outdoor storage at the back. There have been minor amendments to DC 9 District in 2014 and 15, and since then, the other two lots have been developed and contain auto body, automotive, and contractor general businesses. The subject property remains vacant. The applicant has requested to rezone the property from DC 9 District to a Direct Control 40 District. The applicant is proposing a site-specific Direct Control District for addition of new access requirements, that is, allowing 2 vehicle accesses on 101 Street and 1 vehicle access on 102 Street. The list of permitted uses contained in proposed DC 40 district are largely the same uses allowed in the current DC 9 district, and uses are similar to the surrounding commercial transition and commercial arterial districts. Some uses in the DC 40 district include contractor general, commercial storage, automotive, and RV sales, rental, and services. The proposed district also intends to ensure that any outdoor storage is adequately screened. Other districts were reviewed but found unsuitable because they either don't permit the applicant's intended uses or don't provide assurance for the applicant's proposed access requirements. The proposed amendment was circulated to internal and external stakeholders, notice of rezoning sign was placed on the subject property, and letters were mailed to the adjacent neighbors and businesses, and no concerns were received. Based on this background and analysis, it is recommended that Council give 3 readings to this bylaw. Thank you.
Thanks for the introduction, Ms. Patel. I just wanted to let those knowing who might be watching online, joining us online, Councillor O'Toole, Councillor Thiessen, Councillor Bressie, Councillor Blackmore, Councillor Plott, Councillor O'Connor, and I are happy to be here in person. And now I'll move to the presentation and submission portion of this public hearing. I will look to see if there's anyone here to speak in support of this land use bylaw amendment, C-1260-200. Once you have an opportunity to get situated, your microphones are on, and please take your time to present in regards to this amendment. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Council, Scott Rossler with Helix Engineering. With me is Nathan Davis with Enframe. So I think didn't hear any questions of administration, but for the most part, the reason we're here just is in response to the needs of our client and the changes to access as outlined by Ms. Patel. We have been through kind of all the process with administration and understand the concerns with adjacent residential and a lot of the intended, I believe I did the rezoning to DC 9 several years ago. So we understood the concerns of adjacent properties and whatnot, but I think we've kind of found a nice compromise for everything. So if there are any questions around what's presented, we'd be happy to answer.
All right. So I see no one in the queue online, no one in the queue in the room. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I will ask again if there's anyone else here to... Oh, I apologize. Councillor Bressie, don't go too quick. Go ahead, Councillor Bressie.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Figuring out the iPad. My apologies, I did miss asking a question for administration, but I think the applicant could answer it just as well. For access to 102 Street, I just wanted to confirm that would be a right-in, right-out access, I'm assuming, not a left-turn access?
Mr. Rossler?
So no, I don't think it would be. 102nd Street is a collector road, so the access would be all directional there.
Are the other accesses along there multi-directional for the other businesses that are north and south?
Yeah, I believe they all are. Other than there's a couple. The one coming out of Mr. Mike's is there are a few restrictions around the bypass intersection, but other than that, all of them are all directional. It's just a 2-lane road, so we'd have to have a median or something to restrict left turns.
Right. Gotcha. The one use that I do have a concern for here, and I'm wondering if you'd have a comment on it, is making religious assembly permitted. I am worried about potential traffic impacts on 102 Street. If you had a religious assembly that was maybe a large one, and maybe during peak traffic areas would have a lot of people coming in and out, especially if they can turn left. I might, depending on where the conversation goes and things that I hear, I might propose that we change religious assembly in this district to discretionary, with the development officer being the authority on that. But before I go there, I just want to let you know I'm thinking that, and if you've got any feedback on that, I'd definitely welcome hearing that.
So just to clarify, there's an adjacent religious assembly facility. So you're curious in regards to, you wouldn't want a second religious assembly facility?
No, my main issue is the other religious assembly doesn't turn on 102 Street, and so specifically, I'm worried about the traffic impact on 102 Street, not necessarily a religious assembly being there, but how the site is accessed.
Okay, Mr. Rosler, any comments?
Yeah, I'll let Mr. Davis answer this, but I don't think there is anything like that planned. So I guess it would be kind of council's wishes as to how you wanted to handle that. But
Mr. Davies,
great.
I don't need the religious assembly use kept in. I think that was left because it was likely part of DC9. And we left the existing uses in and just added a couple more. So it can be
Thank
removed.
you.
all right. Councillor O'Connor.
Sorry, Mayor Clayton, I didn't get in early enough, so I didn't expect it to go that quickly. So I'm assuming your business are going to be, we didn't see an orientation of the buildings, and I'm assuming neither are going to be on the north property line or on the south property line with entrances from both sides, correct?
Mr. Davies.
My intention is to have one primary building, one or possibly two primary buildings on the west portion of the property, which would be accessed from the single access on 102nd, and then additional buildings on the east portion of the property accessed from 101st. And the only ones I currently have planned for are the ones on the east side, which would be oriented facing 101st, and with the facade facing that street.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that the in between, because we didn't see that plan, so you're having 3 buildings facing west and 3 buildings facing east.
Yeah,
near the center.
Yeah, not quite that many. 2 facing east and 1 or 2 facing west, and then there'd be the common space sort of in the middle of them.
Okay.
Yeah, or open area.
Yeah, I don't think there should be a problem with access. That's a fairly in the center of all the developments there, so I think it'd be easy to get in and out into the property. So unless you've got something crazy going on, so I don't think you do.
No, the current thought is for a small event rentals company in one building on the east side of the property and possibly a small general contractor. And then my plan would be, once that end is developed, to build something to suit or on spec that's a larger, nicer building facing 102nd.
And this would be all paved lot?
I believe the portion on 102nd parking area is, and the stuff off 101st where it's not paved, I wasn't under the impression it needed to be, but...
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, Council? Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. Are your intentions, if this gets approved, to build this year or in the near future?
Mr. Davies?
My intention is to build at least one building this year, and preferably two, both on the east end of the property.
Well, thank you for choosing Grande Prairie.
All right. Any further questions, Council, for the delegation? Seeing no one online and no one in the queue, this time I thank you for coming. I will ask a second time if there's anyone here or online to speak in support of this Land Use Bylaw Amendment C-1260-200, and a third time to see if there's anyone here to speak in support of this bylaw amendment. Seeing no one in the room or online, I'll ask if there's anyone here to speak in opposition of Land Use Bylaw Amendment C-1260-200. A second time, if there's anyone here to speak in opposition of this Land Use Bylaw Amendment. And a third time, seeing no one online or no one in the chambers to speak in opposition of this amendment, I'll close the public hearing and look to business arising, recognizing Councillor O'Connor.
Sorry. I closed the public hearing, business. Okay, thank you very much. I'm the only one here, so I'm going, whoa, pay attention. Okay, I'd like to move council give first reading to bylaw C-1260-200, being an amendment to the land use bylaw.
Thanks for that motion, Councillor O'Connor. That motion is in order. There's no discussion or debate on first reading, so I'll call the question. Please vote.
Bressie in favor.
That carries unanimously. Councillor O'Connor, rather.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I'd like to move council give second reading to bylaw C-1260-200.
Thanks for that. That motion is in order. Opportunity for discussion or debate. Questions for administration. Recognizing Councillor Bressie.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I do have an amendment I'm going to move. Do you want me to do that or let people ask questions first?
I'm just going to take a question from Councillor Blackmore first.
Okay.
I guess I don't really have a question other than to administration because I was, like Councillor O'Connor, not quite quick enough on the draw there. But my understanding is it needs to go to direct control because that's the only opportunity for bare land condominiums, and we're looking at commercial condominiums. So if there's a number of them going on the site, there wouldn't be an opportunity. If there was a number of them on the site and one of them did become a religious facility, there wouldn't be enough room for people. There wouldn't be enough people to make a difference, is what I'm trying to say. But my question is for Ms. Patel. Right now, we're only doing a land use bylaw amendment, and so any development would come when the builder applied for his permits. We wouldn't know what's going in there until then, necessarily, correct?
Ms. Patel? Sorry, can you say that again with your mic on? Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Yes, that is correct.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Blackmore?
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that because direct control often, I seem to get confused by it. Okay. But thanks.
Not a problem. Okay, Councillor Bressie.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I would like to move that we amend this to make religious assembly discretionary with the development officer's authority in this zone. Just speak to it. I know that it's not what the applicant's planning right now, religious assembly. There's other things that sound promising that they'll go in, but you never know that. You know, it could fall through and this could be left empty land for a while and there could be a church coming in looking for it. And really what I'm trying to do is get it aligned with the similar districts, which are commercial arterial and commercial transition. And in those religious assembly, in both those, religious assembly is a discretionary use, not a permitted use. I know that you could say the same thing of, well, hey, why not also change commercial recreation facility outdoor and public utility service to also discretionary to align with those districts. I'm not as worried about those because I don't see the potential on this site for any one of those with big enough space to have big traffic impacts. But I could imagine a scenario where religious assembly does have major traffic impacts on here. And it's not that I want to make it not allowed here. It's that I want to create some room in the bylaw that administration could review it at the time and say, yes, that does work, or no, that doesn't work. And so not saying strike it completely, but just saying make it discretionary with development officers so that we can have some review if a religious assembly ever did offer here. I know it's low risk of happening, but it could be big impact if it ever did happen. So I think it's worth giving that particular use further review.
Okay, so that amendment is in order. It is in your e-scribe. You'll see it is item number 3 in your e-scribe. Discussion or debate on the amendment. And I'll just look to administration first. Is there any, is it clear in regards to what the amendment is? Okay, I got a nod. We're good. Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. Just a question for Councillor Bressie. In regards to the reasoning behind preventing a religious assembly, would you consider including funeral home in there too, as some of those car lineups do tend to get quite long and for the same reasons could also impede traffic and cause a safety issue?
Councillor Bressie?
Yeah, so I'm just taking a quick look. Yeah, and I mean, the reason I'd be open to a friendly amendment if administration, or sorry, if colleagues really wanted me to. The reason I didn't look funeral home is, again, I really think direct control should be as close as possible to the kind of analogous regular districts that they're matching up with. And right now, funeral home, it's not allowed in commercial transitions. So you could make the argument that, hey, we shouldn't allow it at all here, but it is a permitted use in commercial arterial. And so that's why I'm comfortable keeping a permitted use here, because it is permitted use in commercial arterial.
Okay, well, I see a few actually listed on there that could create traffic issues, commercial school being another one, or even site issues such as storage yard, which we've had several complaints about smell and sound and storage and how that looks visually along and beside a neighborhood. So I guess taking out one and not the other seems kind of different for me, and in light of all the other ones, I think this should be a major addition to your motion. So I'm not going to move to amend it, but I would hope that you would consider it commercial school, funeral home, storage yard, all as discretionary uses.
For me, I don't want to get too wordsmithy on this. I just think that aside this parcel, I'm not worried about a large school going in there or not, but I know that is about the parcel of the south parcel that a lot of churches do look for in there.
Okay, so Councillor Thiessen, it appears Councillor Bressie has intent with his amendment. Discussion or debate on the amendment? Any further discussion or debate? Personally, I can't support the amendment. I think the intent of this, as identified by the proponent, is pretty clear. I think it's really low risk, and as recommended by administration, I'm happy to approve as recommended by administration. So I'll give you a chance to close on your amendment, Councillor Bressie, if you choose.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll call the question on the amendment.
Bressie's in favor.
And that is defeated. So I'll go back to the original motion that was already made. Seeing no one else in the queue with questions for admin or discussion, debate, call the question on second reading. That carries unanimously. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I'd like to move council give third reading of bylaw C-1260-200 at this meeting.
Thanks for that. That motion is in order. In order for us to have third reading here tonight, this must pass unanimously. Seeing no one in the queue or no one online with their hands up, I'll call the question. And that carries unanimously. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I'd like to move council give.
Just go with it. You know what you're doing.
Okay. Council give third reading to bylaw 200 being an amendment to the land use bylaw.
Perfect. So this is third reading on the land use bylaw amendment C-1260-200. Seeing no one in the queue with discussion or debate, I'll call the question. And that carries unanimously. Thank you for being here tonight.
They were trying to confuse me with first again. I'm going, whoa, we're starting all over.
All right, no delegation business for this evening's session. I will move council member reports, asking my colleagues, if at all possible, to be brief, starting with Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I've got dinner with family here. The only, it's been very busy as deputy mayor, as all the council can attest, and the mayor can attest in their regular run of duties. So there are several ribbon cutting, several events such as Earth Day, the United Way 80s party. We had an Avondale class visit, Grand Spirit Foundation meeting. I've been at 2 conferences. And I just really want to speak to 2 things. One, the GP Grows Dig It program was another huge success again this year. We had over 900 people come by the Recreation and Activity Center to pick up their dirt, their potatoes, their onions, their seeds, their strawberries, and everyone was very, very, very grateful for it, including CAO Shane Burke and his family. So a big thank you goes out to our staff in Environment and Parks who helped to organize and run this program that is very popular in the city of Grande Prairie, as well as to Service Credit Union for their sponsorship and their volunteerism as well. When they ran out of all the gifts to give out, they started giving out onions for us. They didn't want to leave the site. So I really want to thank them as well, and to all the other volunteers and our parks people who were digging dirt all day for people. It was really a glorious sight to see. The other thing is I'm wearing red today, and I'm staring at Councillor Blackmore wearing red as well. Today we wear red for missing, murdered Indigenous women and children who, never got their time to shine because of discrimination or omission or whatever. But today is not a day we celebrate, but a day that we are somber in knowing that we lost the lives of our fellow Canadians for reasons that today seem beyond me. So to all those families who have suffered through a missing and murdered Indigenous relative, our hearts at the City of Grande Prairie are with you, and hopefully we never have to create another day to recognize the travesty of events such as this again. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Thiessen. Councillor Bressie.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. A few meetings I got to go to that I won't belabor, but just for information is I did get to attend the Commission Policy and Governance Committee meeting. I got to attend an AB Meetings Board meeting and an Alberta Municipalities Audit Finance Committee meeting, and a whole bunch of community events as well. But the 2 highlights were today I got to read the proclamation for Mental Health Week, and I also got to read the proclamation for Murdered Missing Indigenous Relatives Day, which were both not exciting topics to read because they are recognizing that people struggle, but real privilege to be able to go and do those proclamations. So I was glad to do that, and thankful for all the people that are organizing events like that to take care of people in our community. And just my heart really goes out to those struggling with mental health and those relatives that are missing and those who have relatives missing.
Great. Thanks for that, Councillor Bressie. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. I'll just be brief. Combative sports. There's no announcement from the province yet on what their plans are. They're spending a lot of time to make the right decision rather than make a decision and have to go back on it. The Alberta Bilingual Municipalities Association, we had a meeting, and we are actually going to have a meeting tomorrow with an organization out of Quebec. They want a partnership with us somehow. We don't know what the whole meaning behind the meeting is, but they brought it forward. Special Olympics, the athletes are training very hard. I was out watching them play pickleball the other day, and I don't know if I think you can get hurt pretty bad in pickleball. If you ran over a ball and slipped, you could get hurt. So it's a tough sport. It's kind of like hockey. the organization of the event is going hard and still looking for and accepting donations, monetary or whatever. And volunteers are still in need. And there is the website, and you can put your name on the volunteer list. I've got another list here that I've been at this week, but right now I'm sitting in Edmonton at the Alberta Community Crime Prevention Association meeting, and just on the weekend I was at the Alberta Association of Police Governance. So with that, I will let you go and get wrapped up, and thank you for the opportunity to give my report.
Thanks for that, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. A couple of events that haven't been discussed yet that I was at. I was at a Community Futures Board meeting on the 24th. I dropped in on Earth Day at the Montrose Centre. Busy going concern again. And I also took part in the healthcare walk where the mayor and I and several other volunteers and people walked through many medical doctors' offices in order to thank them for opening practices in Grande Prairie and letting them know that we appreciate having them join our community, as it was National Physicians Day. And because I was with Mayor Clayton, I was lucky enough to meet a lot of doctors. Some of the other groups didn't get the same kind of physician response that the mayor did. So that was an excellent event. And right now I am in St. John's, Newfoundland at the Community Futures National Convention and enjoying much cooler weather here than you have been enjoying at home. So I will be back in Grande Prairie late tomorrow, actually very early Wednesday morning. And I'll see you all then. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Blackmore. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Councillor Thiessen and I met with grade 6 students from Avondale School and let them sit and be counselors for a half an hour and also ask a lot of questions about government. And that fits in with the program with education at the schools. Attended Earth Day at Teresa Sargent Hall and got all my seeds that I need, and we're planting away like crazy. Attended with Councillor Berg, the Yak Council, and they have such great involvement and great questions, and they're always interested to take part in things. And this, I think it's this Thursday, is Youth Expo, and we're inviting everyone to come out and come and see that. All youth from around the region is coming here, so I hope that's a great success. And then Sport Connect, I have great news that the board has elected or assigned Heather Llewellyn as the new executive director, and she is going to be a rock star. And then finally, just because of where everything's at with fire and emergencies going on, there's a fire ban. So please do not flick your cigarettes out the window. Everything's very, very volatile right now. So just be careful while you're out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Connor. I'll go really quickly. With my colleagues, attended the ribbon cutting for Motion, which is a store that moved from the Prairie Mall to the Richmond Industrial Park and sells accessories and equipment for mobility. Also attended the ribbon cutting for the Agua Cucina Italian restaurant. Attended a session from the Ronald McDonald House. The group was up from Edmonton to give an update in regards to expansions that they are doing in Calgary and more particular in Edmonton. Attended a ribbon cutting for 43 North Parts in Richmond Industrial Park. It's quite a success story of an individual who's really now grown his business significantly. Attended the Steps for Life walk and brought greetings on behalf of council. Also met with MLA Nolan Dick, and then same day had a meeting with Mayor Dober from Dawson Creek and our CAO. And last but not least, I attended an event called Rhythms and Rhymes, put put on by healthcare professionals to celebrate some of their colleagues. It was a really organic event that they planned, and it was really special to see healthcare professionals to celebrate the work that they're doing within their community. It was great to be there, and I want to thank the volunteers and the organizers, the doctors who put that on. So with that, I wish you all a good night, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.